All right, what's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Average Rob Runs. So, as you saw, I got up early this morning to go for a run in the Nike React Milers, and I actually did have some video that I recorded on my camera stick here with my old GoPro that I've had forever. Yeah, it's a GoPro Hero 2, by the way. I mean, that thing is old. I've had that thing forever. So it's like, what? I think they're at like the Hero 9 or 10 or something like that now. Anyways, I had some video, but when I uploaded it, it was so dark out that you couldn't really see anything too well. So unfortunately, I don't have any running footage. So I'm trying to kind of update the channel a little bit and get some better content for you guys, but unfortunately I went out super early this morning. It was pitch black. You could see me running through where the road lights were, the street lights, but that was it. You couldn't really see, and there was some sections where it was just pitch black. You know, it was even hard for me to see, and I'm running. So anyways, guys, so we're going to talk about the Nike React Miler 2. How was it on my first run, and how I feel that I will be using this shoe moving forward, as I just kicked a hitchhiker out of the bottom tread there. Anyways, before we get into it, want to go over a couple of things. This is a pair of shoes that I did purchase myself, and so this is just an independent review of these shoes, and nobody is going to see or review these thoughts before you guys see them here on YouTube. Also, if you guys like the video or just want to subscribe to the channel, which is really helpful and appreciative, please click that subscribe button below. Also click the like button, because it just helps us reach a broader audience, and share this video if you want, if you have some friends that are potentially looking at this particular pair of shoes, or any of the other shoes that I have done reviews for on this channel. So as we get into it, I'm going to go over some quick specs on this shoe right here. So this shoe is an updated version of the one that came out last year, which was the original React Miler. This is a Miler 2. They have done some updates to the upper, which is a jacquard mesh upper. They've added another lace loop up here to kind of give you a little bit better and more flexible, comfortable lockdown over the midfoot. A little bit of padding in the tongue. It's gusseted tongue as well, and you got some padding around the heel collar as well. You've got the Nike heel clip back here, which just provides a little bit of stability for when you land kind of heel to midfoot strike. It just kind of helps guide your foot to stay straight and keep you moving forward. Full Nike React foam in the midsole here, with a stack height of about 21 millimeters in the forefoot and about 31 in the heel, making for a 10 millimeter drop. Now the outsole is, as you can see, we got a lot of rubber all the way across here. You got a little bit more high abrasion rubber back here in this heel area, but you got some rubber all around, and you got the waffle or pill design in the forefoot area, as well as this ribbed outer edge here on your lateral side, which is great for picking up hitchhikers as you're running down the road. So if you like to run in gravelly areas and pick up lots of little tiny rocks, you'll definitely do that in these shoes. So and the weight of this shoe, I believe in the men's size 9, I have to look it up again, but I want to say it was 10.6 ounces, so it is a bit on the heavier side of a shoe than maybe some of the other shoes that are out there on the market. So what was it like to run in this shoe, Nike React Miler 2? First, I'm going to start with the upper. I think the upper is a really nice update. It's a pleasant update compared to the last one. It's definitely more breathable. I will for sure 100% say that. It is definitely more breathable. Going out on the run this morning, which is the coolest time at 5 o'clock in the morning, is the coolest time of day to go for a run. and I could feel the breeze coming through. Usually when you start getting to about the time that it is right now, you don't really get a chance to feel that breeze coming through your feet because it's just too hot. It doesn't matter anyways. This, you could feel it. You could feel that breeze kind of coming through and cooling off your toe area and whatnot. The toe box is, in my opinion, it's perfect. The toe box is just wide enough, and you've got enough volume in there to kind of move your toes around, enough to splay your toes out a little bit, which is really nice. It's really comfortable. The tongue lays nicely on top of your foot, partially because of that gusseted tongue, but also the padding that's on top of there is really nice and comfortable. So initially, I did a 4-mile run. By the way, I'll give you some stats on the run. 4-mile run, according to Nike Run Club for the half marathon training guide. I am only on the second week because I had to restart my training. So it was a 4-mile run today, and I did it at an average pace of 9 minutes, 17 seconds per mile. So that's pretty much it. Heart rate was actually pretty good. I think my heart rate was staying pretty low, about 150-ish, 155. And my cadence was around 160, 165 was my average cadence. So kind of just bopping along, and that's kind of where this shoe is. It's kind of a cruiser shoe. It's not a shoe that you're gonna, pick up the pace in. It's just a cruiser shoe. So the upper was really comfortable on the run. The initial mile, and I do this pretty much with every shoe that's brand new out of the box, you've got to kind of break in the upper a little bit. So I went that first mile and I realized that I had tied the lacing system down a little bit too hard, so I was getting a little pain on my lateral side on both feet, which is weird because usually it's my left foot that gives me the problem and not my right foot, but it was both. So I kind of loosened up the lacing system a little bit and kind of added, I went from just this loophole right up here, yeah, right there, to adding this one to get a little bit better lockdown in my heel. And after I did that, everything was fine. I was able to complete the next 3 miles. Actually, I went another 3.25 miles. So total mileage was actually 4.25 miles is what I did today. But it was after the initial having to relace it and kind of figure it out, it was fine. I had no problems after that. So midsole, going into the midsole of the shoe, at this particular point, it's a little bit on the firmer side than compared to the Nike Infinity React or React Infinity, whatever. So it's almost like the formulation of this at the current moment from how it feels. You have to remember, my React Infinities have like 120 something miles on them. These are brand new. So I think these just got to get broken in. That's all it is. But it's a little bit, it's hard for me to compare it because I want to compare it to another React shoe, which would be my Infinities. And this feels a little bit firmer, a little bit more responsive than the Infinities. But it could just need to be broken in. That's all it is. So let's see, going through. Other than that, it was kind of a just kind of bopping along kind of ride. It didn't, it wasn't anything exciting. Like, when you get in a shoe, a certain shoe, and I bring up the Nova Blast because the Nova Blast is a shoe that it's like you get in it and it bounces. It bounces and gives you so much energy return that it becomes fun to run in. This, not that quite exciting, but it's just a shoe that, again, if you're going out and just cruising, bopping along, just putting some miles in, and you're trying to do it with some comfort and some stability, that's kind of what the shoe felt like, was just kind of a shoe that you just kind of, just bopped along, and that's not a bad thing. Like, I know some people would say, well, I want the shoe to be exciting. I want the shoe to be like a Saucony Endorphin Speed or an Asics Nova Blast, where it's just, it's fun to get up to speed and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you don't need that. You just need to just just go for a leisurely run. And that's kind of how this shoe felt underfoot, especially with that midsole on it. Now I think it does have this like little plastic medial post thing right there. If you guys can see it on the screen, there's this little plastic piece that's right here, right in your medial post. And you don't really feel it. It's not like the medial post that you see or that you feel in the Infinity Reacts, because the Infinities are like, I mean, it's strong. And people even with high arches complain about that shoe being just too much. This, nowhere near that. Nowhere near that. But it's still there, because when you're running and even when you're just bopping along, kind of moving along, chugging along there, you can still feel it kind of helping you out, especially the longer you get into that run. So for me, when I was in the getting in, between that 3 and 4 mile area, where your feet, your knees, everything's starting to fatigue, because you've had a lot of workouts this week, so trust me, I'm a little fatigued. You could feel it kind of correcting your stride, your foot placement a little bit, and again, kind of keeping you straight, so you're not over-pronating, you're not under-pronating, you're just kind of staying dead center, or supinating, whatever you guys want to call it. You're just kind of staying dead center. So that's kind of how it felt underfoot. You definitely get that rocker kind of feel, not like the Infinities. I would definitely more cater it towards like that rocker feeling that you get in a Hoka Clifton. Does that make sense? It's there, but it's not so prominent that you're like, oh my gosh, this, I feel like I'm in a rocking chair. It's just like, you can feel that it's, oh, okay, it's there, because it kind of almost takes over the whole foot, and that's kind of how this feels. Is very, like, the rocker feeling that they put in this shoe is very much Hoka Clifton, that I can feel. Now, obviously, the Hoka Clifton is only a 5mm drop. This is a 10mm drop, so you still feel like you're up on your toe a little bit. So that's kind of how it felt underfoot. The decoupled groove does give you just a little bit of bounce and energy return. It's not quite as good as the Nova Blast, but it's still pretty good. You still feel it, and you can see I kind of used it. It's already pretty dirty right there in the decoupled groove there. And so going to the outsole, plenty of grip. The only complaint that I have about Nike outsoles is, even though they say that these things are supposed to be incredibly durable, I've had some terrible luck because my roads are like freaking sandpaper. So it's definitely not like AHAR Plus rubber, the A6 high abrasion rubber, because that stuff is like indestructible in the Nova Blast. This shoe, you can definitely tell even after 4 miles, you're seeing the light scuffing going on because of how abrasive my roads are. So that's kind of like what we're looking at with this particular shoe, is like just, and that is very reminiscent of the first version. The first version that I had felt like, I mean, it almost became flat bald after like 100, and I think I did 120 miles in those things, and they were already like flat, like bald in that area. So I'm kind of expecting that out of this, but I figured, I wasn't sure if, because on the first version I had like an outsole that was a colored outsole, and I didn't know if that kind of played with the integrity of the rubber. So I went with a shoe that had the black outsole so that it looks more like standard rubber underneath your foot, and to see if that makes it a little bit more durable. So we'll see, kind of moving forward. So what would I use this for? Right now, because it's not quite broken in, right now I'm going to say that this shoe is really good for just putting in some simple miles. Okay, just bopping along, putting in some simple miles. You can put some long distance miles in. You can definitely do you know, some just shorter miles. I wouldn't say, you know, speed workout or anything, but just, you know, a nice trainer to get those long kind of miles in. That's probably what I'd use this for, is for those long miles, especially once it's broken in, because if it's exactly like the first iteration, I know I'm going to love this thing for the long runs. And yeah, that's kind of where I would put this shoe in, is just those long runs to kind of keep you in that aerobic state and work on your aerobic stamina. That's kind of where this shoe kind of fits in. It's not a fast shoe. It's not a, I wouldn't even put it in a daily trainer category, because I think a daily trainer has the capabilities of going faster, and this just doesn't feel like it. Even when I picked up the pace, because the last 2 miles were negative splits. Even when I was picking up the pace, and I would think I was only able to get down maybe into like the 8:45 area in the last mile, getting into that, you know, up to 4 miles there. And that's pretty much about where it was at. It was like, it didn't really feel like it wanted to go faster. It felt like it was comfortable at just like that easygoing pace, you know, kind of moving forward. So, all right, shoes to compare this to. First one that came right to my mind was the Asics Gel Nimbus Light version 1, because I haven't ran in the version 2. That's immediately what it felt like underfoot. It had almost the same responsiveness to it, the same feel underfoot, the same support in those places that you needed support, the same, it just felt so similar to the Asics Gel Nimbus Light, the version 1. It's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of how I feel with it. It's so close to that. I would also put this in the same, if you want to compare it to another shoe, probably the Saucony Endorphin Shift or Saucony Axon. And I know that those two shoes have a lower stack, not lower stack height, but lower offset than this, because this is a 10 mil, those are 4 millimeter. But it's the feeling underfoot, that midsole feeling that's underfoot feels similar. It's not soft, but it's not too firm. It's just right in that responsive area that just kind of makes you feel like, okay, I can just put some miles in this shoe. So I would definitely say Saucony Endorphin Shift or the Saucony Axon, probably put in the same category. And trying to think of any other ones. Hoka Clifton maybe, but the Clifton is also softer. So if you like the Clifton, but maybe looking for something that has a little bit better responsiveness to it, I think that's where you could get this in. Because the upper feels kind of similar, like it's just the right amount of padding between comfort and breathability. And also, I mean, just the way that the rocker feels is very similar. But again, when you're talking about like soft shoe, the Hoka is going to be softer, but this is going to be a little bit more responsive while still having that cushion for the long haul. So that's kind of how I see this shoe and what I would compare it to, just based on the first run. So again, not a whole lot of miles in it. For right now, these shoes are going to be going back in the box because I have some other shoes that I am working on currently in the rotation. I always like to get a first run, maybe get a couple of miles in this shoe or in shoes before I put them in my rotation. So when a shoe comes out, these will be ready to go in. So right now it's going to be a while before I get to 50 miles, guys. So if you're looking for the 50-mile review on this, sorry, it's going to take a little while to do that. I will have other shoes coming up on the 50-mile review portion of it, and that's kind of where we're at. So if you guys like the video, again, please click that like and subscribe buttons below. Click the bell to receive notifications on new videos as they get published. And as always, guys, enjoy the run. See ya.